Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and welcome to CaneSport Right Now as we talk about the news of the day. And I guess the item that's on everybody's mind, and that's the ongoing athletic director search, the future of the Miami football program. It's a little crazy right now. No argument, man. It's like minute to minute, a lot of rumors, a lot of people making comments. This is the third straight day in a row that there was supposed to be an athletic director announcement, that there's not an athletic director announcement, nor was there ever going to be an athletic director announcement. Matt, I got a call this afternoon from somebody connected. I'll just say somebody connected with the UM athletic program who was asking me if there was any truth to what they were hearing, which is that Lane Kiffin is interviewing for the Miami football coaching job after his game. I can't remember if he's playing Thursday or Friday, but after his game this weekend at Ole Miss, that they had heard that he has an interview with UM. Now, Miami still has a head coach. Okay, Miami has not hired an athletic director yet, but Miami is supposed to have somebody out there, God knows who, interviewing Lane Kiffin to be the head coach of Miami. So gives everybody a little bit of a feel for what's going on in our world these days. But, again, hello, everybody. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com with Matt Shodell, our managing editor. And it's been a crazy week. A lot of developments. We updated things earlier today. Basically, there's an AD search going on. We are expecting it to go into next week, possibly even take the entire week. And I would think by December 4th or 5th that an athletic director will be named. And then at that point, it'll be named by the president, by the way. And then at that point, the plan, we believe right now, is for that athletic director to be the point person on deciding whether Manny Diaz stays, whether Manny Diaz goes, whether a new coach comes in, whether there's a coaching search, whether there's a targeted attempt to lure Mario Cristobal here, whether there's a targeted attempt to get Lane Kiffin. We might as well throw that one out there. Some people think that Miami should go after Mark Stoops. There's a lot of different opinions that are going around right now within the university. And for us to challenge, Matt, is figuring out who gets to make the decisions, who has the power, and how are they going to navigate through all of this. And from the best we can tell, the president's office has the power. And the president's office is the one that fired Blake James. It wasn't the board of trustees. There wasn't a vote taken. It was the president had the authority to do the AD situation. He made the decision to fire Blake James. So let's start with power today. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, the president has no power. You know who has the power? The fans have the power, because this all started with the fans. The fans were outraged. I think that if not for the fan outrage, I think Blake James is still the athletic director, and Julio Frank is none the wiser. What got Julio Frank's attention was just the pure amount of animosity coming towards him from football fans. And he probably, I don't know the guy. I don't know anyone who knows the guy. I don't know if he has any friends that are even, Miami fans, because he isn't from down here. But I can imagine that he was pretty surprised when he realized how vehement the fan support is for this football program, and how badly these fans want this program to not lose 4 games every year, to not lose 3 games every year. So the fans still have the power, and that's why I'm still convinced that there will be a change for as head coach. The athletic director change had to happen, but how would you bring in a new athletic director, a new one, who then says everything's fine, we're going to let Manny have another year, we're going to see how it goes? Because again, it's not the president who has the power. The president might be okay with that. But when nobody shows up for the stadium, when recruiting is dead, when there's banners flying over the stadium, if anybody even still cares to pay for a banner at that point, what do you do? To me, the athletic director, and you've clearly stated this numerous times, the athletic director will make the ultimate decision on Manny Diaz. And how can he not get rid of Manny Diaz if he wants to have any pull whatsoever with Miami fans who do hold the ultimate power at the end of the day. This is all about getting fans in the stands, getting fans to buy merchandise, making money on game day. They still get the ACU revenue sharing. It's about money, because if you're still paying Manny Diaz millions of dollars and nobody's showing up, you're losing millions of dollars. If you're paying Mario Cristobal X amount more millions of dollars than Manny, but everyone's showing up and buying merchandise and excited about the school and the program, it's a no-brainer. And that's why I said to you, you keep saying, $25 million has been laid aside. I keep saying, if Julio Frank is watching this right now under some assumed name like Linares Murray CWO, if that's really you, Julio, then here's my words of advice. Don't be afraid to lose money and get Mario, because I was thinking about this today. To me, if you do not get Mario and you just go through another 3 to 5 years with some schmuck, for those of you that are Jewish, what's the point? We know, Gary and I, and other reporters, by the way, that Mario is the guy who could fix it. Lane Kiffin's got some baggage, man. He's got some red flags. Reporters have already been making jokes about if he was here, what sort of stuff would be happening, what sort of shenanigans might be going on in Miami, on Miami Beach with him. Mario's the guy. So if you can't get Mario and you're the new athletic director, you better tell everybody, every fan who has power out there, why you weren't able to get Mario, what your plan is to get somebody as good as Mario or make another run at Mario the next year. Because if you're going to not replace Mario with Manny, what do you do? And that's why someone was asking on the message boards today, on the War Room board, about who's the third guy on the list. And I'm not even sure you want the second guy on the list right now. But if you don't get the first guy on the list, I'm okay with bringing back Manny instead of just getting some other schmo who's going to do the same thing for 3 to 5 years. I don't want another Manny Diaz / Al Golden / Randy Shannon coaching this team. I don't. I'd rather go another year of hell and get a real coach a year from now than not get Mario. So that's the only scenario I'd see. And if the athletic director sticks with Manny because of that, he better darn well explain to fans that's what's going on and figure out a way to say it that's not going to kill recruiting. It's going to be a very slippery slope. Because to me, it's Mario or bust with the people who hold power, and that's the fans, not the president of the university.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. But, the funniest thing is, you've said on our shows that you think that this could be a pretty good team next year.
Yeah.
And imagine if Manny Diaz, through all the political nonsense that's going on at the university, that cracks me up, that, I laugh when I go on the internet these days, when I go on Twitter. It's like people are like, somebody put out on Twitter, I'm not going to mention names. Somebody puts out on Twitter today that it's a disservice to the university to suggest that there's political maneuverings going on at the university over this whole athletic director coaching change fiasco. Okay. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? This whole thing is nothing but political. You've got, 66 plus trustees.
But by the way, it is a disservice to say it because it makes UM look like the Mickey Mouse Club. That's why it's a disservice. I think that's what this person meant. Not that, don't say anything about Miami because it might have hurt some feelings. No, it's a disservice to the university because it's a freaking joke right now, the way things. We've got people.
Do you think it's any different in Florida, Matt? Do you think it's any different in Florida right now? I can guarantee you.
I don't cover the University of Florida. I don't care what happens there. I care what happens at Miami. And what's happening at Miami right now is there are people who used to cover this team that don't anymore, that are going on YouTube videos saying there's going to be a coach announced tomorrow. There's going to be an athletic director announced tonight. And they say it every other night, and it never happens.
Control that.
But it gives the perception that nobody's running the show, and it's a headless horse. It's a headless horse from Notre Dame running down the streets in Miami screaming, "What's going on?" Nobody knows what's happening.
Here's what I'll say. I mean, our responsibility is to the fans, and yes, I'll admittedly say there's some things we can't report. Okay. And, I'm reporting as much as I can. And, the fans want to know what's going on. And I know it's an emotional time. And, for example, last night, okay, there was a producer for the Levitard show, okay, who did, I guess he did a podcast or something. And he throws out that David Epstein is orchestrating a media campaign to keep Manny Diaz to throw a monkey wrench into a pursuit of Mario. It's a reputable guy. I mean, the Levitard show is love Dan Levitard. I love Greg Cody and those guys that do that show. It's a reputable group. They're a media company now. I mean, it's DraftKings did this massive deal with them. So like this happened last night, and on our message boards, there was suddenly this massive hate campaign against David Epstein. I mean, it was like beyond over the top. I mean, I'm seeing burn David Epstein. I'm seeing like serious things being said about this guy who's, the chairman of the athletic committee on the board of trustees. And, this is a hot button. Okay. And, every single thing that everybody says is being latched onto and seized upon to just go absolutely ape crap all over Twitter and all over social media and start ripping people. I mean, if I write something that somebody doesn't like, now they're ripping me on Twitter. And it applies to other people too. So this guy says that he says David Epstein is doing this. Now, I wrote a story a couple of days ago saying that there was a group within the university power structure that was advocating the return of Manny Diaz. I wrote that Manny Diaz had been told he was coming back, that there was an assumption within the program that Manny was coming back, that there was a group within the university that wanted Manny back. I wrote that, 2-3 days ago now? That is 100% accurate, okay? 100% accurate. So now this guy comes out and he says David Epstein is behind that. Well, I can tell you, I broke that story, and I don't talk about my sources. I never do, and I never will. But I will say this, Matt: David Epstein was not a source of that story. I know David Epstein would probably like Manny to come back. Now, why would that be, Matt? Because he's the one that was involved in the hiring of Manny Diaz 3 years ago. He didn't stop Blake James from doing it. Now, I know he was supposedly on vacation overseas or something, but he's a phone call away. Okay. And he could have stopped Blake James from making that mistake, and he didn't do it. So the Manny Diaz hiring in 2019 is partially on David Epstein. And, of course, he doesn't want to rush to judgment on Manny, because the minute Manny's fired, it is forever etched in stone that David Epstein failed. Failed the University of Miami, failed the fan base, failed himself, failed everything. The minute Manny's fired, that is cemented in history. So it's natural to think that he might want that to happen, but I don't know what this media campaign is supposed to be. Have you seen a media campaign?
You're asking me or asking the fans?
I'm asking you.
What kind of media campaign of what?
Have you seen a David Epstein media campaign?
Anti-David Epstein?
Trying to sabotage the hiring of Mario?
I've seen an anti-David Epstein sentiment for sure.
Yeah. So, my point is, Matt, that this is a powder keg. People are emotional, and they want to know what's going on.
Yeah, and the problem is, again, nobody knows what's going on, because it's just like, picture an argument with your wife over something stupid, because this is stupid. It needs to be done. I mean, it's just obvious. Like, it's for the betterment. Like, if you look at it in political terms, what's for the betterment of the country is more important than anything else. Like, what's for the betterment of the program is what these people should be looking at, and not their own individual interests. And like you mentioned, David Epstein wants Manny so he could try to redeem himself and have Manny win 10 games next year, and everything's hunky-dory, maybe. I don't know. And you can't really rewrite history, and you have to really do what's best for the program in the role that the board of trustees people are in. It shouldn't be political. I mean, it's why everyone hates senators and congressmen, right? It's like they have a lot of self-interest and just want to get reelected and have their power and whatever. But the best ones are the ones who do what's best for the rest of the people, and the people who care out there that don't have a voice.
But isn't what's best subjective, Matt? I mean, let's be honest. We both agree on what we think should happen, but isn't it subjective? Isn't it our opinion? Like, we think the program would be best with Mario Cristobal running it, but it's our opinion, right?
No, that's subjective. What's not subjective is the body of work that Manny Diaz has put forth. I mean, it's literally cemented in statistics. And all you have to do is look at his defense this year and the excuses he's making for why the defense is so bad. And you can just say, this didn't work. I mean, he thought the solution was making himself the defensive coordinator and firing the defensive coordinator last year. That's all you need to know. Just like when Blake James made the rushed hire of Manny Diaz, and you could point it out and say, that's all we needed to know. Like, all we needed to know was that Manny Diaz, who was in charge of this program for 2 years and knew it inside and out, thought the fix was him being the defense coordinator, and the defense is worse this year. That's all I needed to know. That's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, it is worse. I would be of the opinion that it's worse because the personnel has continued to get worse. If you go back, I did this actually on CaneSport Live last night with one of our callers. If you go back to 2016 and look at who was playing defense for Manny Diaz in 2016, almost every single guy on that defense went into the National Football League, Matt. I mean, every single guy. Now, fast forward to 2021 and go down the depth chart of who's starting on defense this year for Miami. I mean, how many guys would you project that are going to be in the National Football League?
Well, there are young guys who could be, certainly.
I mean, yeah, James Williams eventually, but my point is that there was almost like all 11 in 2016. And you had some damn good players that are still in the league today, the Rayshon Jenkins of the world, the Sheldrick Redwines of the world.
Right. But you're pointing to ancient history. Last year's defense and this year's defense, personnels are not that different. I mean, yeah, they lost their defensive end.
Massively different. There's
no defensive end.
There's no first-round draft pick defensive end. Jalen Phillips,
right, Quincy
Roche's in the NFL.
Right, but he didn't even think the linebackers were a problem when everyone else did.
They're
and the secondary, Gervin Hall started wasn't he the starter in game one? And like, why would they it's just all about evaluation to me. The fact that coaches can't see what even the fans and the media in the limited amount we see, like, we literally are out there saying, hey, like this fall in fall practice, we're out there, literally multiple media members, we're talking amongst ourselves. We're like, hey, Chase Smith looks like he might be the best linebacker out here. And he's looked pretty good, but they still won't give him a chance. And I understand that maybe they don't understand what they're doing and blah, 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 blah. But like Gervin Hall knew what he was doing and Avante Williams didn't, but they benched Gervin Hall and Gervin Hall left. And like, just the personnel decisions that they make and that Manny made, it's just, it's very disheartening the way he's run this program. And he hasn't run it into the ground. He has not run into the ground because this program, these kids fight hard. That second year and freshman class are outstanding, not because of anything Manny did, but, COVID really helped. Those kids couldn't take any other visits. They all stayed home. But that notwithstanding, that's great for a new coach to come in. Like, that's attractive. If they weren't there, if those two classes weren't the way they were, I'm not sure they can even have a conversation with Mario Cristobal right now because you're starting from ground zero. Like, they have a chance to be pretty good next year. They should have one of the better returning rosters in the ACC, Coastal or Atlantic, just when you look at what's coming back. That's very attractive to any head coach, Listen, somebody said why is the guy on the right so angry? I don't know. Maybe he has a mirror he's watching through and you're the angry one, but like, I'm actually optimistic. What I'm angry about is what's happened for 15 years of me covering this program. How angry would you be if your first year covering the program after moving back from Baltimore was the 2001 Rose Bowl season and you think everything's going to be just like, roses from then on, and then this is what happened? Would you be angry?
For 20 years, man.
Would you be angry?
Yeah,
I think you'd be angry.
It's been pretty rough, no doubt. But, I think you would agree there's been sequential decline in the level of personnel on defense from 2016 to 2021. I think you would agree with that. There's no RJ McIntosh and Kendrick Norton holding down the middle. There's no Shaq Quarterman and Michael Pinckney playing linebacker. There's no Sheldrick Redwine and Rayshon Jenkins playing at safety. Like, there's a pretty good decline in the level of talent on defense. And that has coincided with the decline of Manny's defensive coordinator, Blake Baker, and now Manny Diaz himself.
But that's that's Manny's fault, period. I mean,
all comes back to his fault. Yeah. And it only supports the reasons why.
You're making it sound just like, oh, well, they don't have the players. It's not Manny's fault. So I just want to clarify. Yeah, obviously Manny's in charge of recruiting, in charge of the personnel. Yeah. Okay.
This is all about the only way that they're going to separate from the pack and get out of this win some, lose some abyss of ACC seasons every single year is they have to separate by improving the personnel on the roster. That's it. That's simple. And the way to do that is to get an elite recruiter in the building to you and I, that's Mario Cristobal. But right now, Manny Diaz is the head coach. And like I was saying at the beginning here, like if anybody that thinks that this isn't like a battle, you can use whatever word you want, power, influence, whatever. Somebody is going to get their way on this situation. Okay. Everyone's not winning. Okay. You can't have Manny as coach, Mario as coach, Lane as coach, somebody else's coach. Everybody can't win in this thing. So there's going to be a winner, and there's going to be some unhappy people at the end, Matt.
At UM you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, look, they all need to rally around whatever happens, period. They need to make the right decision for the sake of the program, put their egos aside. This is the thing. When you get board members and trustee members, they've all got egos, man. That's how they got there in the first place. It's like those positions in themselves, it's like a reward for being successful in your life. So if you're successful in your life and you help bring Manny here, and Manny's a failure, it's like, you lost I'm not going to name any names, but somebody may have lost a national election in the last few years and said he didn't really lose it. It's like that. It's like that mentality of, I'm not going to lose because I'm not a loser. I'm a winner. So I'm not, I need Manny to stay and show he's a winner. So I'm not wrong. A lot of it is ego driven with these people, and they need to put their, if they're watching, like, put your egos behind yourselves, man. Do what's best for the program. Everyone knows every fan right now knows what's best for the program. I mean, they do. Like we said, it's like I said, maybe not you, but it's a fact when you look at the numbers and what's happened in the Manny Diaz era. Like, right. You don't need to go 5 to 7 years.
Why would there be fighting? Why would there be debate? It's absurd. Yes. I mean, listen, we like Manny, you like Manny, I like Manny. Manny can't recruit anywhere in the stratosphere of Mario Cristobal. And Luis Delgadillo says, Gary said we're getting Mario. What I said was,
let me add, since you just said, let me add something real quick. And I never interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you just this one time. Just this one time. I
was trying to answer Luis Delgadillo and tell him,
yes. Well, we'll talk to Luis in a minute.
Right now,
hold that thought, Luis.
I would bet a month from now that Mario Cristobal is the head coach of Miami. If I had to make a bet right now, but this is, okay. It's going to depend on the AD. Go ahead, Matt. Now I answered Luis.
Well, now I got to flash back to what you said about Mario being a better recruiter than Manny. Mario, I mean, we've both written recruiting stories for a number of years. I've certainly covered recruiting extensively over a decade plus. And I'm telling you right now, the players that are recruited by Oregon and recruited by Miami that we speak to, they're not getting recruited by, if they're a defensive player, they're not getting recruited by the Oregon defensive coordinator or the position coach. If there's an offensive guy, they're not saying they're getting recruited by the offensive coordinator or the position coach. They say to a person, I'm getting recruited by Mario Cristobal and blah, 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 blah. You never hear that from a Miami recruit. Oh, I'm getting recruited by Manny Diaz. Oh, and I'm also talking to so-and-so and so-and-so. Never. Mario is the first name that always has come out whenever we talk to an Oregon recruit who was overlapping with Miami. And one of them is Moten's brother, Ahmad Moten, who, by the way, says Mario talks to him every day.
Every day, wink.
How often do you think he's talking to Manny Diaz? 0. I mean, it's like Mario. I don't know how Mario has the time to do this, but he finds the time.
He talks to Moten every day. He talks to Nigel Lee Kelly every day.
You know what, Gary? What you said this the last CaneSport. What is this, CaneSport Now? We do so many CaneSport shows. CaneSport Now. You said that, what would Manny do if he's not defense coordinator? What's he going to just stand around and do nothing? Guess what he could start doing? Calling every single recruit that they care about every single day, like Mario Cristobal does. How about that for starters? That's what he should have been doing instead of being defense coordinator. Maybe that would have made a difference.
Yeah. I don't know if he'd want to get up at 5 a.m. and go to sleep at 1 a.m. like Mario does, but that's a different subject. Hey, I got to give a shout out to my man Orange and Green Blood here, who's saying, "What's good, Orange and Green?" Thank you for the.
That's some good insight right there, Orange and Green.
Bernard Williams says, if not Cristobal or Lane, who? I don't want more upstart Mickey Mouse coaches. Matt, that's been a battle cry of yours for a long time now, and I totally 100% agree with you. I can't believe it, but I do.
That's the reason to take Manny for one more year. If you can't get the right guy now, you don't know who's going to be out there a year from now. Some NFL guy might be, looking to whatever. You just don't know. And that's the only reason to take Manny, because I don't want to be stuck 3 to 5 years with, like you said, an upstart Mickey Mouse coach from a mid-major or some young up-and-comer. They've tried that. It didn't work. I don't want a guy coming here for retirement like a Mark Richt. I want a coach who is at his prime, who has been winning, who is at a top program, Power 5 program, or from the NFL. And like, if you can't get that this year, and they're not interested this year, then that's the only scenario where I bring Manny back for one more year. And I was talking to another reporter the other day about this. It's pretty funny. You know, his argument was, well, what if Manny comes back and wins 10 games and then they keep him? Which
you would say he might do.
And he might do that. And that's what I said to that reporter is, well, you know what? If this is the scenario they have, they need to make it very clear to fans that, like, we are very much looking. We tried to get whatever, it didn't work out, but we know what's going on, fans. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we are very well aware of what you're saying. We have heard you, and we are actively going to make this a national championship contending program or something to that matter. I mean, obviously you can't say Manny's on a 1-year contract and we're replacing him, but they have to infer that. You know, the new athletic director has to use his magic words and infer that to the fan base. Like, listen, we couldn't get the guy we wanted. We don't want another, Joe Schmo coach, and we're going to get it right, but we're going to get it right when we can get it right. Something like that, because I'm okay with that. I don't want Joe Schmo coach.
The worst thing that can happen is they can't get Mario, they can't get Lane, and they end up going to the field and bringing in like a Dave Aranda, even a Mark Stoops. Is there really that big of a difference between Mark Stoops and Manny?
I love Mark Stoops to death. He was like one of my favorite coaches when he was here. The nicest guy, but I want a killer. I want a coach that everybody hates, because he's like just so in your face. Like every great coach at Miami, I've said, I don't know how many of you tune in that are watching right now, but I've said over and over again, the great coaches that I've covered and that I've had other people covered other places are a-holes. They're jerks. They're not nice people. Larry Coker, nicest guy you'll ever meet. Manny Diaz, nicest guy you'll ever meet. And like, these aren't the guys for whatever reason. Like that personality doesn't mesh.
Which was
Mario Cristobal screamed curses at me from 100 yards away in a practice field when he was coaching at Miami because he thought I had an incorrect report, which turned out to be correct. But like, that's what you want. Like, it's
you want that fire. You want that intensity.
Oh man, you want a guy who will say to somebody, "Listen, you're not good enough. You got to leave the program." Not, "Oh, we're gonna let you graduate and we'll keep you on scholarship, but just so you know, you're probably gonna be a backup." No, sorry, we need your spot. We'll try to help you find another place, but you can't stay here. Like that kind of guy.
So Joel Hogu here asks, "Why are all these leaks coming out? Who benefits from these leaks?" All I keep hearing are rumors. I'm not really sure what leaks he's talking about. The Epstein wanting Manny back thing. I don't know, Matt, what the source of that was. I know what the radio producer said was the source, but I don't know where that came from. But
the problem is there aren't enough leaks. Like if there were enough leaks, we'd know something was happening. Like from what we can glean, it's like people butting heads and nothing being done. Like that's the public perception right now. Nothing's being done because they can't make any decisions. And let's hope some magical AD comes in and gets both sides to agree to something, or makes a unilateral decision on his own that estranges half the board, and is on day one or week one of his tenure here. Like that's not the perception you want to have if you're trying to get a top coach, first of all. And it's not the perception you want at one of the nation's top programs if you want to be considered that. It's like, some people say it's an SH show. Like that's what it looks like right now.
Yeah, I don't.
And it's not a Shodell show. SH does not stand for Shodell. SH does not stand for Shodell. It stands for something else. SH show.
Okay, so there really aren't a lot of leaks. They've started the AD search, and what happens in that is the university will give a few preferred candidates to the search firm. Okay, we haven't reported who those were. I put out a list day one. I put Dan Radakovich of Clemson on there. I think he's an obvious target to me, but I don't know that he's really going to be a candidate for the job. There's names floating around: Alonzo Highsmith, Gino Torretta. Nobody knows if they're really on the list. So I think there's speculation. I don't think there's leaks. There really isn't. And a lot of what's going on in the whole battle for influence and all of that is all transpiring behind the scenes. Like it's not playing out before the public. So I don't I don't think that there's a lot of leaks. I do think there's a lot of rumors. And Joel, the reason why there's so many rumors is that this is a hot wire situation. And quite frankly, this is an opportunity that some people take to just throw things out there and hope to be right. They want to be able to say they were first. We've seen this rodeo before. I was the first to say that,
someone's going to, if you keep saying an 80 is going to be hired any day now, an 80 is going to be hired any day now, eventually you're going to be right, so.
Yeah.
Listen, I got the post of the month right here. You ready for this?
Yeah.
I love this post. This is my favorite post. Walsh Sports on our message board under your thread. We are going live and we'll take questions on everything on a CaneSport Right Now show at 5 p.m. So it's from Walsh Ford. It says, are you going to announce the new AD? And then more importantly, he writes, I have stone crabs to eat for dinner, Gary. I live in North Carolina and had them shipped from Key Largo this morning. Love that.
Wow.
That's a boss move, man. Night before Thanksgiving, eating stone crabs. I love that. I'm actually going crabbing tomorrow morning. Going to grab some stone crabs, hopefully.
Are you really? That sounds like a good Thanksgiving
early in the
morning activity.
We'll see what we get.
Stone crabs for Thanksgiving.
Nothing better than that.
That's a winning move. But yeah, so people use hot stories like this to bring attention to their social media, things like that. I can't give you any other explanation. I can tell you that we here at CaneSport, we don't deal in rumors. If we put a story out, it's confirmed. Sometimes things will change, as they have over the course of 30 years a couple times, that some people out there, some of my best friends, love to remind me of because they think that I might have gotten something wrong in a couple of those situations. But that happens. But if we're putting it out at CaneSport, I promise you we've confirmed it. And we feel that the information that we're giving you guys is 100% solid. So in the couple stories that we've written this week, I said the new AD is very likely and probably going to make the decision on the future of Manny Diaz and the future of the head coaching position. Matt, still believe that to be true. I don't, I've said that there's an AD search going on. That's absolutely true. I think that everything we've reported has been, as we know it right now, is 100% spot on. So I don't think there's a lot of rumors to conclude that subject.
Yeah, well, so let me just address a couple of quick message posts that people have now. So I always have to respond to a Philly guy.
This is on the website, right?
That was, yes. But
because wait, don't jump ahead of me. I'm still.
People are posting at 5:30.
I understand, but I'm still at 5:08. No, don't jump to 5:35. I'm still at 5:08. So let's go sequentially here.
Philly's going to be pissed. You want to piss off Philadelphia people?
No, but listen, we got to go in order. Everyone's.
You're never going to catch up. You do this every time.
I will. All right.
Catch up.
All right. So let's talk about this one. What has Mario fixed? Trucker Abdullah asks. Why don't you? What does Mario fix? What do you think?
Mario fixed Gary's wall. He had a hole, and Gary put the Mario Fathead right over it, so he patched that right up. Mario fixed FIU. Mario certainly, you can say fixed or whatever, but like when he was at Miami, he was one of the best coaches on the staff. Like you say, what has he fixed? It's more like, is he a great coach? Like, when you say fixed, like I understand Miami hasn't been great. But this isn't like FIU, which was, winning a game or two a year before Mario comes along or whatever it was, Like Miami's got potential. Miami still, believe it or not, had the second most wins in the ACC in the last 10 years, is it? Or 15 years? I can't remember. I think 10 years. Even with all these failures, they have the second most wins in the ACC. Think about that. That's crazy. And you want to know what has to be fixed. Of course, what has to be fixed is Miami has to get to that next level. Miami's okay. They're not a losing program, other than a couple of times in the last 15 years, where they actually had losing records. But to me, what has to happen is not fix it, but take it to the next level, which is totally different. Fix implies you're done. Like you're at the bottom. Like you got leaks everywhere. You can't do anything right. But all this program needs is a killer coach who can recruit and who understands what needs to be fixed. That they need to bring in probably 4 to 5 impact transfers on defense, maybe 1 or 2 to shore up the offense, kill recruiting, and like then it just rolls from there, because once you're winning And once you're showing that this is a program on the rise, local guys stay again. And now you're just in cruise control. Not that a guy like Mario would ever stay in cruise control, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, yes, what has Mario fixed? Mario's proven himself as a I would say a really, really good coach. I said great coach before. I guess greatness is sort of a subjective term, but I think most people would agree he's a very, very good coach and an outstanding recruiter who's been honored numerous times for national recruiting efforts, even when he wasn't a head coach. And he doesn't take his foot off the gas. Manny Diaz, back in the day when you and I started covering the team, Gary, there were literally mattresses in the corner of every assistant coach's office because they didn't go home at night. If there's a big game, they slept in the office almost the entire week. And you don't see any mattresses on the floor anymore. You see guys clocking out at 5 p.m. I've seen coaches showing up for work at 8 or 9 in the morning in the off season. You can't do that and compete with those other programs that have those coaches showing up at 5 in the morning and leaving at 9 at night. You're missing 4 or 5 hours of film study or calling recruits or whatever it is.
There's always something to do.
I always come back to it, but even Garen Justice, right? He's done this a long time. I think he's an outstanding offensive line coach, but this is not a staff of recruiters. Garen Justice, the only time he calls recruits from every recruit I've ever talked to, he FaceTimes them while he's walking his dogs.
That's probably not fair, though, because you don't know when he's
It's not fair, but
I know that story. We've heard that several times.
From multiple recruits.
Yes.
And we know this because the recruits see him on FaceTime walking the dogs, but they never see him in his house. They never see him at the office FaceTiming. He FaceTimes them when he's out walking the dogs. It should be a 24/7 thing. You're on call for recruits 24/7. You're calling recruits all the time, not just when you're going out for an hour walk.
Oh, my God. Poor Garen Justice.
Look, you can say what you want, but until I have a recruit tell me that it was a FaceTime and he wasn't walking the dogs, I'm going to keep saying it because this is multiple recruits have told me this. And I've asked them, only when he walks the dogs? Yeah, only when he walks the dogs. That's just what they told me.
Garen Justice just canceled his CaneSport subscription. All right. JP Kane here is going to aggravate some people. He says between Mario and Manny, he'd keep Manny. It just shows you there are people out there in the Manny camp. And like I said earlier in the show, there are you have at least 66 trustees that probably many of which weigh in with opinions. There are several. There's not just David Epstein. There are several that believe the university should not spend all this money for buyouts and should keep Manny, just so everybody knows that. That is unquestioned, okay? And anybody that wants to suggest that all 66 trustees are unified by any one point of view, they all 66 want to get Mario or all 66 want to get Manny, give me a break, okay? So, post all you want on Twitter and anywhere you want that to suggest that there's any division whatsoever is a disservice or whatever. I'm just telling you, if you think that all these people are all in unison over what should happen here, happy Thanksgiving. All right. So now I get to this one, Matt. Sports team, Miami football trustees are a joke. First of all, there's no such thing as football trustees, sports sheet. But that gets back to the point I was just making. They are not a joke at all. These are some of the most successful people in the community that are on the University of Miami Board of Trustees. They're all very accomplished. You don't get to be a trustee at the University of Miami without being very successful in your life, regardless of what it is. And it might even be as simple as a Jonathan Vilma, who was successful as a football player, okay? But you don't get to be a trustee by being a joke, okay? But if anybody, if and I don't know your first name, Sports She, but I don't know if maybe it's she, but if there's an expectation that I have no idea what his first name is, Matt, but if there's an expectation that all of these people are going to agree with each other, that's unrealistic. Okay. So, no, they are not a joke at all. They just they have different opinions and different viewpoints on things. And that's always going to be the case. And it's not any different right now at the University of Florida, where they're searching for a coach. These coaching searches are absolute hot wires, as I think you can see by now. Matt, talk about this one, and while I look for some more posts. Both defensive ends that were lost were transfers. Can they develop some talent, please? Some talent recruited out of high school.
All right. Well, I don't know if they're just talking about defense or not, because when you say develop talent, that's been a big problem in the last 15 years. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Kids come in and they're no better as seniors than they are as freshmen. They actually get worse sometimes, which is inexplicable as they go through their careers. It's almost like they got brain overload from whatever kind of playbooks and ideas these coaches were putting in their heads. But, this year, I would actually argue that there's been some decent development. I mean, you can't argue with the success of Tyler Van Dyke.
Right, but wait a minute. I'm just putting up a couple other posts here, and I'm going to let you continue. But this Tyson Watson is on fire, okay? He points out they had Jalen Knight in that RB3.
This is the problem with you going back a half an hour. That's what we were talking about at that time.
Well, they had Cody Brown in front of that. Like, he is on fire.
That's what I was talking about.
I'm putting them up on Gervin Hall.
You're a half hour late. That's why I keep trying to tell you. You're a half hour late.
No, I'm at 5:19 now, so I'm getting there.
I know Manny Diaz wants to go back in time, but you can't go back in time, Gary. That passed. That moment passed.
Man, I'm giving this guy's posting some interesting points. And it's what you're talking about. So I just wanted to get him out there.
It's what I was talking about.
No, go ahead, continue. I'm still looking for more.
Yeah, great. Anyway, so you can argue that in this particular year, just in the 1 year from spring football until now, and from what Gary and I, saw in the spring to now, like Tyler Van Dyke, we didn't think he was that great in the spring, and we didn't get to watch as much of the fall as we did, some of the spring, especially the spring game and things like that to do an evaluation of him versus Jake Garcia, for instance. Gary and I both thought Jake looked better in the spring, but obviously something happened in the fall camp where this guy just gets it, and was outstanding. And he's, like I said, he's the best quarterback I've seen here since Ken Dorsey, and he's just in year 2 and he's considered
came out of his shell.
He's a freshman. So that's just one example. But then you go, there's other guys that have gotten better. The one position that I think has not gotten better, by the way, the offensive line. Like those guys, just like Navon Donaldson was supposed to be an NFL first rounder when he came in here as a freshman. He was really, really good. He's gotten worse. Jared Williams last year played better than this year. Corey Gaynor has never really been a guy to me that has progressed that much. I mean, he's fine, but he never became special. So the line has not gotten better. Receivers, I think you're seeing some of them that really look like they know what they're doing. Brashard Smith had the big play. Jacoby George looks like he's going to be the real deal. Those guys look like they know what they're doing, and they look like they're playmakers. So some of these young guys obviously have progressed to the point where they're getting more reps now. On the defense side of the ball, I think Corey Flagg is actually playing a lot better now than he did at the beginning of the year. He's progressed. I'm trying to think. There's other guys. Obviously, James Williams didn't get a chance early, but there's other guys on defense that I think have gotten better this year. Leonard Taylor. He told us he didn't know the plays halfway through the year. Couldn't figure out what was going on. He'd have to literally ask or watch the guy next to him to figure out what the heck was going on. He's turning into a playmaker. So there are signs that these players are finally starting to progress. And I'm not going to say it's Manny Diaz's, that Manny Diaz that did it. But whatever it is, whether it's these players themselves, which I think it might be, because you got to recruit players who want to get better, who work hard, who are with David Feely when they're not supposed to be with David Feely, in the weight room, and who are smart enough to understand what they're supposed to do and pick it up pretty quickly, and it looks like these guys are on the right track, a lot of them, to where they're not getting worse as their careers or seasons have gone on. So I think there's room for optimism with that.
Electric Kane makes an interesting point here as a continuation of getting the right players on the field. He says Manny put all his eggs in the De'Ara King basket. And they absolutely did. And I think that Van Dyke didn't really come out of his shell until it was his show. And then he just blossomed. That development of Tyler Van Dyke was as fast of a development as you will ever see.
Well, okay. Well, listen, I still think that they made a mistake. They had a damaged quarterback. They knew it. I understand Alabama's the first game, but you're not winning with a damaged De'Ara King anyway. I think if Rhett Lashley could go back in time, I think he may have, potentially cost Manny Diaz his job by not starting and not realizing what he had in Tyler Van Dyke in game 1. Because they lose game 1, they lose game 2. And then I think Van Dyke could have run the table, or lose to Michigan State, rather. And then I think Van Dyke could have run the table after that. I mean, that's how good this guy is. And De'Ara was not good.
Let me ask you a question.
He was not good this year, De'Ara.
Let me ask you a question along those lines. Fortunately, we got to watch a lot of fall camp. Okay, we got to watch a lot of time out there. Did you ever, and we always get to watch the quarterback drills and things like that. They're always close to us. Did you ever one time? Because I'll say the answer for me is no.
I already know what you're going to ask. I already know the answer.
Did you ever, at one moment, at any practice that we were able to watch in the spring or fall, did you ever say, and all three quarterbacks were there, they take reps, boom, 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 boom. Did you ever say Tyler Van Dyke is better than De'Ara King or Jake Garcia? Ever?
Here's why neither of us ever said that. They never put Tyler Van Dyke in a game-like situation in fall camp.
They did in scrimmages.
Where he was going, what?
They did in scrimmages.
Can I finish?
No, but I'm just saying they did in scrimmages. They put him in live situations.
No, they didn't. Because you didn't let me finish. They never put him in situations in live practices where it was ones versus ones, where you could actually see like what he can do. You know, if you're putting him with the 2s and the 3s against the first team defense, he's going to look bad. And that's what they were doing, you know? And like, you got to get ones versus ones reps consistently for a guy like that. They needed to do him and De'Ara King.
Time out.
Ones versus ones, 11 on 11. And then you can get a fair assessment.
Time out. De'Ara King wasn't in spring practice.
Fall. I'm talking about fall practice.
I'm talking about spring too.
Oh well, spring. What is spring?
Tyler Van Dyke, did you ever hear anybody say?
No, I just said a minute ago. You were doing your little checking your things. I already said Jake Garcia looked better than Tyler in the spring. I'm talking about fall camp. Right. They did a disservice in fall camp by not understanding what they had in Tyler, and it may have cost Manny Diaz his job. It probably did cost Manny Diaz his job.
But I think Electric Cane is right.
That's how good Tyler Van Dyke is.
Yeah, I think Electric Cane is right, though, which is why I've left it up there so long. They did put all their eggs in De'Ara King's basket. He was the face of the program. He saved the program last year.
Right, so, but what they could have done is said, listen, he's not ready, because he wasn't ready. He was not on point at all in any of those games. I mean, when you watched, was it the Michigan State game? He didn't even try to pass the ball. He like literally didn't even try to pass the ball. And like, you can't beat a decent team like that. There was just something, I don't know if he couldn't plant on his right leg and throw accurate. He didn't look confident in his throwing. That's for sure all season. And the fact they couldn't ascertain that in fall drills, forget spring drills. That was like an eon ago. The fact they couldn't ascertain in fall drills who the best quarterback was for the current situation and who looked the best. Like, I understand De'Ara King's like your name guy, but every fall is its own entity. And he's coming off a major injury. You have to do a serious assessment and not just say he's going to be ready, he's going to be ready, he's going to be ready, and then throw him out there. But, you know, it's a shame. You can't go back in time. But I think if Brett Lashley was being honest with himself and had one regret, that would probably be the major one.
I didn't feel, when I was watching the quarterbacks in the spring and fall, I didn't feel there was a difference amongst them.
In the fall camp, we barely saw anything, and they didn't put him in position.
What we saw, I felt that Tyler Van Dyke and Jake Garcia looked just as good as De'Ara King. I personally didn't feel there was a noticeable difference. There certainly wasn't a lot of separation between Jake Garcia and Tyler Van Dyke. That all changed.
When we watch practice in season, even, it's hard to tell that Tyler Van Dyke's so good. You can't tell from the periods they let us watch. Like, you're talking like, I don't understand, because what they let us watch, everyone out there, okay, they let us watch 7-on-7. They let us watch one-on-one passing drills with a DB and a wide receiver. And they let us just watch quarterbacks throwing receivers with no coverage at all. So we really don't get to watch 11-on-11 because they don't trust Barry Jackson.
My point is, nobody ever said that Tyler Van Dyke is blowing up in practice. Never. This kid, the minute he had to go live and he had to be the dude, he took the whole thing to another level. And he starts throwing NFL passes, and nobody had ever seen anything like it before. And I've said this before, Matt. If you took a poll in September of the entire program, don't interrupt me.
They never said, you just interrupted me.
If you took a poll of the entire program in September, anonymously, all 100 and something people, the trainers, the equipment people, the ball boys, the ball girls, the water boys, whatever. If you took a silent poll of that entire organization back in September, who is going to be the face of the quarterback position at Miami moving forward from this year? Jake Garcia would have gotten 80% of the vote. I mean, what I'm saying is what Tyler Van Dyke has done here has been absolutely amazing.
You just wasted 5 minutes of everybody's time. Who's they? The fans, the coaches. Brett Lashley is a great offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. He knows, regardless what the fans say, he knows what he has in every player. How could he not? But somehow he missed it. And you say, oh, they never mentioned Tyler Van Dyke looking so good in the fall. You know who they said looked amazing all fall? De'Ara King. He's throwing the ball amazing. He's running faster than he did last year. And then he gets in the first game, and it's obvious he's not the same guy as last year. So you can't convince me that anything they told us is factual when they're telling us that. So don't tell me Tyler Van Dyke didn't mention it. They had to know if they ran practice correctly, if they did 11-on-11s correctly, and they didn't throw them in the second and third team against the ones in fall camp and try to expect him to do something great
man,
like
he was
that.
getting the crap kicked out of him in that game. He re-injured his knee early in the Alabama game. He was getting
and they still kept using him. They still kept using him
because he didn't want to play.
How much lack of faith did they have in Tyler Van Dyke that they still kept De'Aaron in? They didn't know what they had. That's all I keep saying to you, Gary. They had no idea what they had, and how can you not? I coached, kids baseball. I told you guys that up through high school, and like I know which players can play and which guys can't. I know if this kid was great the year before and now he doesn't look so good anymore because I've had those kids on my team. I've seen them regress. I've seen kids who were awful the year before be really, really great. And you put them in the position where they belong. You don't say, well, he was great last year, so he's going to be my main shortstop and starting pitcher, number one guy. No, you use what you have to make your best chance at winning games. And it's obvious right now that if you can go back in time in game one, Tyler Van Dyke was Miami's best option to win games all year long, not De'Ara King. Whether De'Ara King even had that injury against Alabama or not, Tyler Van Dyke is a difference-making quarterback. And that Rhett Lashlee didn't recognize that it's still mind-blowing to me because I know Rhett's a great coach. And I think you're right. I think it's because of what De'Ara did the year before. And they just said, well, he's off the knee injury, whatever. He's still De'Ara King. He's got to play.
He was being talked of as a Heisman candidate coming into the season.
I understand. But you know what?
But Oklahoma
I understand the perception. But the coaches
look at Oklahoma. Same thing, Matt. Same thing happened.
The coaches know. And you know what? The coaches could have got out of it easily saying, listen, De'Ara's not quite ready. Because if they really knew what they had in Tyler, there was a million ways to let De'Ara off easy. Listen, it's Alabama in game one. He obviously, wasn't really himself. We know that compared to the year before. And you could have said that. You could listen, it's Alabama game one. He's just not quite there. We're going with Tyler and Jake in this game. We're going to see what happens. That would have been the end of the world. And then if Tyler's great, you roll with it for a little while, But they didn't do that. So it's all speculation. I just wish in retrospect that it happened. I think that in retrospect, Rhett Lashlee wishes that it happened.
Well, Ronald Desato says, go get Bob Stoops, 61, 62-year-old Bob Stoops. Bring him out of the TV booth and make him Miami's coach. The funny thing about that one is that he's actually called Florida and told Florida that
finally Philly. I told you about Philly like an hour ago.
I know, but I love Philly, so I'm just putting up to you once in a while. We're doing the show. We're doing the show because of comments like why Bob Stoops. People have a lot of questions. People want to know what's going on. We could have just done tomorrow morning, Good Morning CaneSport, whatever, but. It's Thanksgiving. We figured we would do CaneSport Right Now today, get through all these questions, answer all the questions that are on people's mind. So we decided to do this right now. That's why we're doing it. And
not just that, because of all this Twitter noise out there. That's really part of the reason, too. I mean, people are getting very confused and people are blaming Gary for things that Gary never said or did. And
I don't understand. Everything that I say goes in black and white.
Shame on you, Gary. Shame on you. That's still the best one.
I don't know how there's so much. Gary's defending Manny. Gary was saying that Manny should have been hired 3 years ago.
That's what Gary said. Manny's going to be back, and Gary's happy about it.
Yeah, I don't know where.
Good luck finding that story and that post.
Should have been put in this job. Okay, I'll say it yet again. I hope everybody who thinks I'm saying otherwise is watching. I think he never should have been put in this job. It was unfair to him. It was unfair to the university. It was unfair to you guys, the fans. Miami shouldn't have to spend 3 years training somebody to where going into year 4, we're sitting here having a debate on Thanksgiving Eve whether he should be brought back or not. And that if people think he is being brought back, they start, torching up Twitter and Instagram and stuff. I mean, that's not what the University of Miami football program should be. But anyway, all right. So Tyson Watson's back. He says the fact that there aren't any leaks is a bummer. It shows no progress is being made. No, I disagree with that. It shows that there is progress being made. When you hire a search firm, there aren't supposed to be leaks. These people are doing background checks, intense background checks. Their job, they're paid a lot of money, these agencies, and they're doing background checks, and their job is to protect the university, make sure that the best candidates are interviewed, and make sure that the university leaves no stone unturned in exploring its candidates. So it's now been a week. It's been a week since the search firm was hired. I assure you there is a lot going on, and there's not supposed to be leaks from that process. I'm up to 536, man. I'm getting there, and if you have to go, you just tell us. But I'm blowing through these. Here. Another show's got something to say. Showboy Kane. Showboy, you've been a little rough on social media lately, buddy. Give us a little bit of benefit of the doubt. But anyway, it's the infrastructure that needs fixing with elite coaching. That's what Mario brings. How to practice, weight room, nutrition, recruiting room. You have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't, Miami was always great with the worst facilities. I'll never say the facilities are a problem. I think that, I think the strength coach staff is really good. But I do want to say something real quick right now, because there's a Miami Herald report out right now about Dan Lambert, I guess, confirmed that in 2019, he offered to pay Alonzo Highsmith's full salary, which people are now freaking out about. But
I'm amazed he confirmed that. But yes, he was the one. If he confirmed it, I will confirm that Dan Lambert was the one that was willing to pay Alonzo Highsmith's salary.
Right. But what people are missing is, people are saying, well, Blake James, it was his fault. Manny didn't want Alonzo Highsmith. And at the end of the day, how's that going to work? If your head coach doesn't want to work with Alonzo Highsmith, how's that going to work? And it's the same problem now. Like, if you bring in Alonzo Highsmith, Manny didn't want Alonzo then. Why is, he's going to have Alonzo forced on him now? How's that going to work? Just like ESPN said, everything's got to be hand in hand. Everything's got to be kumbaya, to make things work. Like, that's not going to work. So, that's what's missing from that story is, you could offer to pay anyone's salary. If the head coach says you don't want them, that's not a story. I thought everyone knew back then, Manny Diaz did not want Alonzo. He wanted Ed Reed, and that's what happened. So, I don't understand why that's major news.
Ed Reed has just been a figurehead chief of staff. He has
right.
not
That's
been
what Manny wanted. Manny did not want someone to get inside that program and start trying to make suggestions and change things.
Yeah. I was getting a little annoyed at some of the stuff that Showboy Kane's been posting both before this show and during the show, but it makes a great point here. I gotta give you props, Showboy. Saban was able to figure out what he had. He sat Jalen Hurts. He had Tua. Same with Dabo when he gave Trevor Lawrence the job, and that supports your argument that they should have known that they had a better quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke.
It doesn't support anything because it's a totally separate situation. But any great offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach, you got to put the kids in position in fall camp to make sure that your starting quarterback in particular is the guy. If you miss out on a receiver and you started the wrong receiver, that's not as big a deal, right? But if you miss on the quarterback, man, and you had a guy sitting there who looks like he's the next Heisman Trophy winner, whatever, and you don't realize that, that's a problem, and that very well may have, like I said, cost Manny his job at the end of the day. So, of course it's happened at other places. Just because you're returning and you had a great year the year before. I mean, there's more examples than that. But it does happen. Is
that a fireable offense? What do you think? Should that be added to the list of fireable offenses?
Fireable offense for Manny or for
Manny
Rhett?
Diaz didn't identify what he had in Tyler Van Dyke.
No, and I wouldn't even. No. Because if you're going to fire anyone over, that would be Rhett. And listen, I get it with Rhett. It's hard. De'Aaron King. I maybe Rhett in his mind even knew De'Aaron wasn't as good as Tyler. I find it hard to believe, certainly passing wise, that he didn't know that. He must have known that. But if he felt like De'Aaron King was the leader, and we all know at that time Tyler Van Dyke was sort of this little soft-spoken kid from Connecticut, wasn't going to really speak up that much. I think that may have been one of these mirage things, where it was well, he might be the better quarterback, but De'Aaron's the better leader, and we need a leader on this offense. It's a directionless offense. They don't have a lot of guys that speak up on that offense, I don't think that Rhett will ever talk about it until maybe after he leaves Miami at some point. But maybe that played into it. I don't want to speak for Rhett. I don't know. I do know Rhett knows what he's doing, and I think he's a fantastic offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, which is what makes it a little more inexplicable. But maybe
that is that he's floored by what Tyler Van Dyke has done. I don't think they ever imagined that they would have this.
That's because they didn't. If that's the case, it's because they didn't put him in position. It didn't happen in a void. It didn't happen in a vacuum. He's always been this good. Okay, he was this good on August 30th, just like he was on September 30th or whenever he started. It didn't.
You're blaming the practices.
Yes, you have to know. If you're the coordinator, you have to put them in positions to see that this is what you have, man. Like, are you kidding me?
Philly says the problem with everything is my titles. I assume he's talking headlines. And I gotta let Matt write every headline. And
Hey, you called me today. We talked about the headline today. So the headline today was perfect. Perfect headline.
I wrote a story this morning. I said, I got to call Matt and make sure I'm not screwing up this headline again.
True story. True story. I was literally at Starbucks. You know, my kids are home for Thanksgiving, which is nice. And I'm not going to name what schools they go to because no fans will like to hear what schools they wound up at.
Don't do that, because if you write something they don't like, they'll start picketing outside the school.
I'm not doing it, but I will show you one thing my son brought home for me. You know, he was a Miami Hurricanes fan, and now he brings me this horrible thing home. He brings me this. You believe this? He grew up a Miami fan with me, and now he goes away, and this is what he brings me. So I'm withdrawing him from school. I don't know if he's watching this, but you're being withdrawn from Madison, Wisconsin. I'm no longer paying. We're enrolling you back at UM. So you're all set. That will go in the garbage very shortly. But yeah, so where was I? Oh yeah. So I was going to Starbucks to get my kid wanted one of these Impossible breakfast sandwiches. You know, he's a vegetarian. I don't eat that stuff. But like, so I'm literally waiting to get my sandwich and my phone rings and it's Gary. And it's like, I don't know how early in the morning. It was pretty early in the morning. And he's like, you know, I'm going to read you my story and my headline. I'm like, perfect. You know, and it was a great story and a great headline. So I just
wanted to make sure there was no hot buttons, man. I didn't want any hot buttons in that story today after what went on the other day. So yeah. We did do some back checking there. But all right, so 81 Canes wants to know if you really do have crabs.
I don't have them yet. Listen, we have an interesting system for people who know about stone crabbing. Like, you usually have to put your traps where they sit on top of the water. That's where your buoy is, so you sort of know where your trap is. But like, people steal your traps all the time. It's ridiculous. Like, literally
thousands of them out there.
Yeah, but listen, if you put them anywhere close to, to Matson Hammock or even anywhere offshore, like, people are boating all the time. They go check your traps. Even if you screw them shut, they have their screwdrivers with them. It's ridiculous. So, we sort of jury rig the system where you sort of lay them on the bottom and you can just sort of drag a hook in between two pots and a line and you bring them up that way. But yeah, I mean, I'm going tomorrow and I'm hoping we got some full pots there. And I'm happy to
But you don't personally have crabs, just to set the record straight.
Right now, not yet.
All right.
Not right now. We're going in the morning, so we can't have them yet.
Carlos Wilkerson is asking a great question. We were just talking about Dan Lambert.
Yeah, GPS teetered, and exactly, use GPS. He knows it. That's
Dan Lambert is a Miami booster, okay? And the greatest guy in the world. This guy, a couple years ago, told Blake James, I will pay $300,000 a year for the next 3 years to pay for Alonzo Highsmith's salary to bring him to Miami. Okay, this is how passionate this guy is about helping the program. He was turned down. Never did it. This year, he put up $500,000 of his own money to send $500 a month to every Miami football player in an NIL deal for American Top Team, that he doesn't even really need marketing for American Top Team. Okay, he really doesn't. He's doing it to help the players. They do a couple social media posts a month, and they get paid by Dan Lambert in NIL deals to promote American Top Team on their social media and stuff. This guy is the greatest guy in the world. I was with him the other night, and he says he's going to do it again next year. This guy is dying for Miami to get its act together so that in his spare time, he can spearhead an effort to recruit more businesses and more people to do NIL deals for Miami players. This guy, he should be the damn athletic director, quite frankly, because he's a real successful business guy too. And I'm going to throw something else at it. If you really want to be entertained, go on YouTube and do a search. AEW Wrestling, Dan Lambert. He's a heel on heel's the right word, right, Matt, for the villains in wrestling? Heels, right? They're heels. I think they're heels. He is a heel on AEW Wrestling. It is the funniest crap you've ever seen in your life. And he sits there and yells and screams and tells people that their cities are garbage cans. And he riles everybody up, and he fights with Chris Jericho, and he does this every week. So there's several months of of videos on YouTube of Dan Lambert, the Miami booster, who is paying all this money to Miami players, performing on AEW telecasts every week. Great guy, super duper what he does for Miami players, and can't say enough good things about Dan Lambert. Anthony Manzano, and Matt, if you got to go, you just tell me. I'm almost there. I'm at 5:58. He wants to know when the announcement of new AD's coming. I'm projecting it could be as early as next week. I think it will definitely happen by like December 4th, because I think very quickly after that, they are going to want a final decision on what's going to happen with the football coach. Signing day is December 15th. It's a tight timeline here. If they're going to,
I keep saying you can't do it based on signing day. You got to get.
I know you're saying that, but I don't think.
If you can get Mario by December 15th, by all means, get Mario by December 15th.
Well,
but if he's not ready by then, don't rush and get somebody else.
Okay, but let's use that as an example. Let's say Mario's the hire. Do you understand what is going to go on here? If Mario's hired on December 5th or 6th,
right?
You understand what's going to go on here between.
Of course, if you can get him, great.
Right,
But what I'm saying is, if you haven't gotten him by December 15th and you start panicking like Blake James did and hire some other guy December 5th just because you can get a guy by then to save a recruiting class of 8 players, like no, just like freaking, you got to do it right. You got to get it right. And if it takes until, even the first or second week of January, I'm okay with it as long as you have your staff in place, 2 weeks before the second signing period. That would be perfect. So
T. Durden says, "You're always right. I need to stop interrupting you." T, I was a fan of yours.
Thank you, Mom. That's my mom.
I was a fan until right now. But let me ask you a question. Do you count the number of times he interrupts me too? I mean, Jesus.
Apparently not. Apparently
not. What's good for the geese is good for the gander. All right. And then we're going to conclude with this one. Go Cane says simply on Thanksgiving Eve, fire Manny Diaz. All right, Matt, we did it.
Happy Thanksgiving, Manny. Jeez.
Yeah, fire Manny.
What's he going to be What's Manny Diaz going to be thankful for? This he's not going to be thankful for Go Canes. I tell you that. He's not going to sit around the table and be like, "I'm thankful this Thanksgiving for Go Canes. He's been my harshest critic. He's made me really step up my game, and I really appreciate that, Go Canes." That's not what Manny Diaz is going to be saying.
My man Dennis Lopez, he says, "You are not Superman anymore. This.
Wow.
Says you are now Robin, and I am Batman."
You know what? I forgive you, Dennis, because your dog is really cute. I like dogs.
All right, that's going to do it for today, everybody. In all total seriousness, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Eat a lot of food, spend time with your families, hug your dogs, get your mind off of this Miami Hurricanes football situation for a day. I'm fairly certain there will not be breaking news on Thanksgiving. And we'll be on this, okay? We'll be on it every day as best we can. I feel very good about everything that we reported to you this week. I think you guys do actually, with all joking aside about the rumors and everything, I think those of you that are on our website have a firm handle on what's going on. There's a few things I can't report. I'll apologize for that right now, but it would just, if I did, it would be a powder keg, and I can't do that, and I don't want to screw up what's going on at the university. So we're doing the best we can. I think you got a pretty good feel. The athletic director search is going on. It's got to be at least maybe at its midway point. I think if they haven't started interviews this week, they will next week for sure. And as soon as they figure out who they want and they do the background checks and everything, I think you will have an announcement of a new Miami athletic director. So that's where it's in. So Matt, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to the Canes Nation. I guess we'll be back at everybody Friday with Good Morning CaneSport. And until then, eat a lot of turkey, everybody. See you next time.